obviously really excited about the opportunity to go down to Oxford and compete. Our guys took the improvement week serious, and we had several practices where we felt like we got what we got out of it as far as putting our focus and then going out and really trying to accomplish the things that we need to improve at. So obviously taking on Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, this is a tall task. They got a lot of really talented players on both sides of the football in the return game on special teams. So we'll have our work cut out for us, but it's been fun to see Trinidad just continue to get better and better. He was a guy that we were able to watch when he was at Ferris State. So has a bright future ahead of him, and their whole team is clicking on all cylinders right now. So we're excited for the opportunity and ready to go down there and compete.
Just what was the main focus during the bye week, and how did you kind of find a balance between, practicing, but also, trying to get some rest too?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was with some of our older players is try to make sure that they're healthy as we went through it. But at the same time, do some good versus good, and then put the focus on individual drills and the things that have shown up week in and week out that we need to improve on, whether that's O-line footwork to the back end and breaking on a ball to the footwork coming in on tackling and the angles in which we come in on tackles. So I can go on and on about each position, what we need to improve at. But overall, I feel like our coaches did a good job of kind of narrowing the focus at the things that each individual player needed to improve at. That's something that we had done, leading into the bye week, just to make sure that every kid needs to improve at particular things and put their focus at it, and then give them a goal on how to attain those things. So we had broke down all the players and where their commonality of errors come, and then trying to put it on them to continue to improve by giving them the drills to try to improve them.
I was asked about Bobby Terrell. 7 pressures on 42 snaps against Colorado State. I'm wondering, obviously we've seen what he can do, but just what have you seen out of his motor and his ability to stay on the field that long and keep, being effective?
Yeah, I would say he plays really, he's got a relentless pursuit to the ball, but this also, you guys see him on the field. It's kind of how he lives his life. I think it carries over. So he's got a great work ethic. He's extremely explosive and strong, and he cares a lot about this place and his teammates, and I think he showcases it on game days.
Obviously, you've had a week or so to digest the Colorado State film, and kind of, I know it probably a bit in the rear view, but just what kind of stood out to you that maybe you guys kind of really did try and work on in the bye week in terms of, specific plays, players, or even just kind of scheme things that you wanted to kind of iron out?
Yeah, I thought we did better at keeping points off the board, obviously, but at the same time, there's a lot of missed tackles going down the field and angles and coming out of breaks at the right, at the right angle and attacking the ball in the air there's a lot of things that we need to improve on just as far as the physicality and making sure that guys do their job and aren't always peaking for the football. Felt like leaving that game, I was happy, obviously, with the win, and then you watch it as a coach and you think we could have beat them 34-0. That's kind of how we felt. We left a couple opportunities out of the red zone there that we need to improve on and make sure we finish. But overall, I was happy about the win, but that was kind of the message when I got them back was, don't get caught up in the result. Look at this film and make sure that you understand how much better we can be, because we won against what will be a future conference opponent. But at the same time, there's areas in which we all need to improve, and we need to take ownership of those things. So that was addressed when we got him on Monday, watched the film, and then we gave him target goals throughout the week and areas to improve at.
On bye week for you guys, what does the weekend look like in terms of, are you practicing, or are you kind of just letting the guys, have that time to, relax, watch football, kind of catch up on film and so on?
No, we went Monday through Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday they had off, with Sunday being yoga. They do hot yoga here, so it's a way to try to get the lactic acid out of their body and then get ready to go. We already met with them this morning on install, and we'll practice a little bit later today.
Is the hot yoga thing, is that something that comes from the coaching staff, or is that something they started doing themselves?
No, it's ran by the old sanctuary here in town. So it's something that I had done at my prior stop, and I thought it was a huge benefit. It was a way to get the guys to sweat without it being really taxing on their body and try to get their body back underneath of them. And I'm really big into movement and fluidity and being loose in their hips, and I think the best way to do that is to make sure the guys are stretching.
When you look at Ole Miss, coming from playing Colorado State, future Pac-12 opponent, to now kind of what feels maybe like a one-off game, does that change the preparation at all with, maybe no common opponents or anything like that?
I don't know if it changes the preparation ever on who you're playing. It's like there's a process in itself, and you go about it how you go about it, as far as the segments in which you break down and what you're looking for. It's just a different type of athlete in which you're going to be going against. Our guys are going to have to come out and play hard and play for 60 minutes and be locked into the game and not get caught up in the emotion of the scenario of where they're at or what the score is or how many fans are there. And we got to come out and believe that we can win and go compete.
And when you look at this game, is this type of, big time matchup kind of what you envisioned when you took the job here?
Yeah, it is. I mean, these environments is kind of what you live for as far as a coach. This is the pinnacle of the sport. You're playing the number 4 team in the country with a really great program and a great coach that has, lineage of success throughout his career. And, it's going to be a challenge for sure, but we're excited about it.
With them being, a top 5 in the country opponent, is that something that you guys focus on, or is it just, you're prepping for it like any other game?
Obviously, we know who we're playing. The players know who we're playing. We're not going to talk about what they are. We have enough to worry about and focus on ourselves as far as the things that we need to improve. Obviously, with game planning, you know who you're going against, though, and the tendencies and what may show up or what players are, what their strengths are at, where their weaknesses are at. And then you try to, exploit those weaknesses with your strengths. And so for us, it's been the focus on what we need to do in order to win a game. And that will stay our focus, not necessarily where we're going or the venue that we're playing in. I'm sure our guys will be excited to be able to play in front of that type of atmosphere. And there's many that already have played in front of that type of atmosphere, so I'm excited for that.
Just for those players that haven't played in that type of atmosphere yet in their career, how do you prepare for something like that? I believe it's their homecoming game also.
Yeah, I don't know if you really prepare for it. You bring out a boombox and play it behind their ears. A little bit different than the fans in the stands. But our players were here for the UW game, and they were for us and not against us. But at the same time, it's very similar as far as when there's fans. There's fans. It's a rowdy environment. It'll be extremely loud. We know that. So trying to get our guys to focus on more about what they can control rather than what we can't control.
So, Coach, a bit of a topic change, but I wanted to ask you about this year, the NCAA switching to the single transfer portal window starting in January of 2026. How might that single transfer portal window impact roster stability for Wazoo moving forward?
Well, we'll find out. But the reality is I think it's a step in the right direction as far as there not always being all of these open windows to transfer for whenever you want, but there's still loopholes inside of all of it. It's unknown. We'll see what it's like. Usually there's a December window, right, and then there's the spring window, and there's a lot of kids in both. How many will go into just this one window? Will they all feel like they can find a home or not? Maybe it slows it down. I don't know, but we'll just have to wait to see what type of players go into that portal.
And then considering the timing of it, you're coming to Wazoo for your first year here, and then now they switch to that single transfer portal window, how might it impact you and your staff trying to build something here for the next few years with Wazoo?
Well, at the same time, you can't miss in high school recruiting. I would say that more than anything. You got to do a good job of recruiting high school players that you feel like will have longevity and being able to help you compete. If you can do that, I think that part slows it down. You get players for a full year rather than being in and out at semester. But at the same time, you got to every player that you bring in, you got to make sure that you evaluate them. You got to get to know them at a decent level, and you got to see if they're the right fit. Just because they have talent doesn't always mean that they're the right fit. They may come in and be a great talent, but not buy into the program or their role or do the work necessary in order to compete and help the team. So there's a lot of dynamics to it. I think everybody's going to kind of be adjusting to it. It's not just Wazoo. So we'll see how things shake in the spring. With the roster we accumulate just through the portal naturally. And obviously we're going to have several high school early enrollees that will have an opportunity to make an impact on next fall's roster.
And of course, you touched on it a little bit earlier with Colorado State being a future conference opponent. How important is it for you to have a consistent conference maybe moving forward?
Yeah, I think it's really important. Actually, think they're good teams coming into the league, and I think it will be really competitive, and I'm excited for that. But just to go against some of the teams that you'll be able to see year in and year out, I think is good, rather than just starting a slate with a bunch of non-conference games all over the place. We have many. It's in a unique schedule, but we're doing our best to try to compete in it.
Your position group through the first 6 weeks that you feel like has made the biggest jump?
I would say overall, I feel like our defensive line has done a solid job as far as creating chaos a little bit as pass rush or helping us stop the run in certain games. That group has collectively as a whole, I think, has been a bright spot for us. There's areas that we need to improve there as well. And I would say the wide receiver core, as far as how they've grown since I've been here, as far as not just catching the ball and adjusting to a new offense that maybe doesn't always highlight them individually. They've bought into their role and they block hard, and because of those things, we've been able to have some games where a play that really should go for 3 yards goes for 10, 15 yards. So those are the small things that kind of separate you. I think there's a lot of adequate players on this team in that wide receiver room that can surely help us and be really competitive.
Sounds like there's a pretty big group of Coug fans planning to make the trip to this game. Does that at all help, make the situation a little bit more familiar when you're in such a new place?
I think it's great to carry support with you everywhere. Everywhere I've been, there's a ton of Cougs everywhere. So this is just one of the many stops that we'll take. I felt like the showing at Colorado State at the end of the game was cool to see that whole end zone really full of Coug fans that stayed after, and we shared the fight song together at the end of that. So hoping to do the same.
Just kind of following up on the defensive line. I mean, you kind of look at a lot of the guys who've contributed, guys like Darian, Mike, Sony, guys who had played but maybe hadn't played massive roles at their previous stops. Just kind of what was the process in terms of identifying those guys and feeling confident they'd be able to come here and maybe be playing the best football of their career or careers?
Yeah, I would say when you look at any recruit, you're looking at how explosive they are, how they move laterally, how heavy their hands are, how they get off blocks, how they pursue the football, what do they make of their opportunities. You could kind of see twitch off of film. So although their rep count always maybe wasn't the highest, we felt like they had the intangibles and played with a certain level of twitch to allow us to have success with them. And then trying to get to know people that have known them. There's a few relationships that allowed us to feel better about certain individuals that we took in comparison to the ones that we didn't. And then overall, they got to want to be here and buy into it. And all those players were great when they came on their visit. And it was kind of like a natural relationship that we formed with them during their visits here, and just communication through the phone and getting to know them at a higher level. We felt like they would be able to aid and help us. And for the most part, all of them have had a role in some form.
Donovan only played a handful of snaps, but I know he had a pressure in there. I think Bryson got the field goal block, but his hand was there too. Just what did you kind of see from him and his debut and being able to kind of make an impact very quickly at Colorado State?
Yeah, I think his future is bright for sure. He's got a lot of growth still to go. He's just a freshman, and he's taking a couple snaps in his first game ever. He's only going to get better. He's a really, really strong kid that has good feet, and he's kind of a really fluid hip kid for a kid his size. So I think he's going to grow like a weed here, and I'm excited to be able to coach him and see what he can do throughout his future.
What's just some of the health status coming out of the bye in terms of injuries and guys you maybe will or won't have for this weekend?
Who do you have questions on?
Just kind of a generalized statement. I don't know, obviously Mac's still out a while, but anyone else that's kind of maybe in doubt for this weekend?
You'd have to give me some questions.
Oh, Hudson.
He'll be out. He'll be out.
He'll be out?
Yeah.
Do you have kind of a timeline on him or not?
A couple weeks. Yeah.
Have you ever interacted with Lane Kiffin before? You guys had?
Never. No. No.
After the CSU game, you seem pretty happy with kind of where the running game is at. A week later, are you still kind of happy with that, or kind of where do you want to see that go?
No, I think it needs to improve. There's some things in there. I was happy with certain plays inside of that game there. You could say this is what we want, which I think is important for the players to see. This is what we can become as far as, the movement of the line of scrimmage and climbing to the next level and really creating a dent in the defensive line. And I felt like in certain portions of that game, there was, all 5 linemen working together in that. And then looking back on it, there's a couple plays where we're still one guy off, and we need to clean those things up to assure that we have success in the run game by 5 guys doing the technique the right way and operating together. But overall, it was by far our best running game as a collective group at the O-line. And then showing those guys, I think there's an ability to, if they want to take ownership of getting better, they saw the same film as us. We got to be step for step and be working in unison with one another. And we showed them examples of that on Monday morning. And I think there's an ability to grow still significantly.
I remember talking to Chris Croc this summer, and he mentioned the story about when you guys went to play Iowa a few years ago, which they have like a pink visitors locker room. He did something similar at SDSU just in terms of trying to recreate that environment. With a situation like this going into Ole Miss, does he play? Obviously, he plays a role every week, but is he doing anything different or kind of to help you guys get ready for Ole Miss?
Nothing different. He has a role every single week, like you said, but nothing out of the ordinary. We address everything in, as far as what environment the players are going to walk into, to trying to make it feel like the players have been there before, so that it's not like an eye-opening experience for them. But I wouldn't say anything out of the ordinary that we're doing this week that we don't do every week.
How close can you get to kind of replicating what that environment will be like? What kind of things?
Unless you know of 70,000 fans that want to show up at our stadium to replicate it this week, you don't. You don't. You show up and you put your focus on the things that you can control, and you lock in at giving your best to the team, and understand what you're supposed to do on every play. And then you play as fast as you can, and you try to out-hustle people and out-physical people, and however the results shake, they shake, but you got to be willing to live with it the next day. I know you got to work for this, and we're going to have an opportunity. The players that we brought in and that stayed wanted this, an opportunity to showcase their skill set against some of the best in college football, and we're going to get it this Saturday. And we got to go down there with the right mindset in order to win a football game. So that's what we expect to do.
More. What's the challenge of guarding Chambliss at Ole Miss? What's he do?
Yeah, I think it's not just him. There's several players. I think the running back is phenomenal. He does a really good job with his opportunities. They do a good job, and they got great length on the perimeter, and they're really fluid, so they can come in and out of breaks and high point of football. And then obviously, I think that they're operating better right now. With Trinidad at quarterback initially the first 2 games. I think he got three carries in the first game in the first half, and then after that, he was, I think it was like 47 to something that he was in, and he kind of finished out the fourth quarter. Then versus Kentucky, finished out the fourth quarter, and then he kind of got thrusted into the whole starting quarterback position, and he's looked great since. And so similar maybe in athleticism as the UW quarterback. There are things that they were doing early on with him, but I think they've just evolved him into, he's the starting quarterback, so they're not going to have a ton of tendencies on some of the things that they were doing with him as like the +1 quarterback or the running Wildcat quarterback, because obviously they play a tough schedule too, and they got to get ready, and I think he's done a really good job of taking that role and owning it and growing. I saw him again when he was at Ferris State when we were prepping to play Montana, and at that time he wasn't even the starting quarterback. He was like they'd bring him in. He was like a running quarterback then too. So that was early on in the season. I'm pretty sure he ended up finishing out the year as the starting quarterback, and pretty sure they won a national championship there as well. So kid's a winner, and he's doing great right now. And we're gonna have our hands full. And we got to do the little things well, as far as communication throughout the game and being able to make space tackles and defending the deep balls and being able to deal with the amount of hurry up that they do run because they're a tempo offense.